Moving right along to round 3 of YETICON 2.0, November 18th, 2023 in Lakewood, Colorado, Atlantic Rules Old School Magic the Gathering. For round 3, we have a great matchup between Joe Yeti Nash on the left and returning champ Justin Iskra. Both of these players at 2-0 coming into this round. We saw Justin back in round 1 here at the feature table, and now Justin's going to take on Joe Yeti Nash for an exciting matchup. Let's get to it. Game number 1, both players taking a look at 7, and there is Yeti putting a card down onto Justin. Yeti showing off the hand there. Very cool. Looks like a very robot-friendly hand. We've got Workshop, and over on the side of Justin, we do have, looks like a fast start there with a Black Vice. Both players going down to 6, and they say good luck in this match for an exciting Game 1. Justin squaring up his deck, and on we go to turn of Yeti, and Yeti does keep life in the book. Very cool that Yeti has a cool scorebook to keep life down. They're also using the dice for us. Here comes an early Mishra's Workshop, a Mox Pearl. Yeti taps the Mox Pearl, pump fake. I love it. Little gamesmanship. Very nice from Yeti. There is a tap for the Soul Ring, and then the remaining 2 mana and the Soul Ring mana for a Suchi. This is a mana burn format. So any unused mana at the end of the phase deals 1 point of damage to you for any unspent mana. So it is a little bit risky to play Suchis, or I should say just a kind of an aggressive move if you don't have a place to put the mana. So in comes Suchi for 4. Yeah, so Suchi, when it goes to the graveyard, it adds 4 mana to its controller's mana pool. So you got to be a little bit careful about that, or you want to have a mana sink if you can do that. Down comes a City of Brass, couple more for an Obscenous Golem. So the Workshop powering out the 4/6 powerhouse of the Obscenous Golem. Love to see that card out there. Suchi got the attack in, and now we have the even bigger body of the Golem. So it's hard to get rid of, especially Justin is on a little bit more of a burn package. That 6 toughness body is going to be tough to deal with. Maybe if some sideboard tech will help with that. We have a Volcanic Island, a Mox Ruby, and a Pass from Justin. So Yeti is looking to do some bigger damage here. He's got 2 4-power creatures on the board. Tapping 2 mana is Justin, and there is a Hurkyl's Recall. So that is nice. Main deck answer for those targeting Yeti. Yeti's going to have to take all of his artifacts and bounce them back to his hand. So there is the 2 artifact creatures coming back, and the Pearl and the Soul Ring stayed on the board there. I'm guessing the Pearl could be used to tap for the Soul Ring. Yeah, so we have that. So we could use the Pearl to tap the Soul Ring. He is going to use 3 of the mana from the Workshop and the Soul Ring, and he's going to take another one for a Sage of Latnam. So he takes a damage from the City of Brass for a Sage of Latnam. Marks that down and says, go ahead. So Justin's untapping. That did slow down a little bit. The Hurkyl's Recall, bouncing the creatures back. So the Golem is still in Yeti's hand then. Justin is going to play an Ancestral on his turn. 2, 3 cards. Not a bad way to try to get back in this game. Hurkyl's Recall is a nice tempo play, but it doesn't often get you the kind of card advantage that you'd like to have. But the tempo play really helps. Saved him 8 damage anyway. All right, so now we're tapping 3, and Justin is going to Psyblast the Suchi. So on his turn, so now Yeti has to be able to use 4 mana before the end of this phase, and Yeti indeed does take some burn there. So you can see him adjusting the dice. So 4 mana gets added from the Suchi, and then 4 for the mana burn. So that is the altered, or the proxy Psyblast from last year. YETICON's rules are that proxies made for YETICON are legal at YETICON. So artist proofs or proxies that were door prizes or things at YETICON are always legal at YETICON. It's a cool little quirk. Anyway, here comes the Golem back down, now that we're back up to 6 mana. Sage of Latnam is there to defend. We can use card draw engine, and speaking of card draw engine, Justin's taking from the library. The Ancestral kind of got him back up to 7, so he can have that going for him again. Remember, both players took a mulligan at the beginning of this game. Sage of Latinam should be on board now, so it can tap to sack an artifact to draw a card. So if Justin does play another effect or does something that would remove an artifact, now the Latinam is not summoning sick. He can sack it to draw a card. Here comes a Chain Lightning, presumably targeting the Golem, and there's another one. And in response to the second Chain Lightning, Yeti is going to activate the Sage of Latinam. So Justin has to spend a lot of cards and mana there to get the Golem off the board, and Yeti still gets a replacement card draw from it. So you can see the value of the Sage providing, and following up with another Golem is Yeti. Taking another one from City of Brass. Going to 14 is Yeti. So both players at 14 life here in Game 1. Pretty exciting. Here comes a copy artifact, and it's going to resolve and enter the battlefield as a copy of the Golem. So he's got 2 4/6 ground pounders, does Yeti. So Justin is going to need to pull off something. He's tapping 2 more mana for a Time Walk. Yeti says, go ahead. And here's an island for turn. And now we're going to untap. This is the Time Walk turn of Justin, so he's going to look to see if he can get to something on the board. Time Walk, great when you can put pressure on your opponent with it, and sometimes it can bail you out getting an extra draw here. He's going to go off the library, it looks like. He's going to play a land and 2 Moxes, and tapping 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's going to take a damage from the city. There's Joe Yeti helping him out. 8 for a huge Brain Geyser. So it looks like a Brain Geyser for 6. You can see it on Yeti's hands there. They're counting up the mana, and I believe they did decide, yep, it is a Brain Geyser for 6. So that would be why you go off of the library for a moment there. Use that library's mana to get you another card draw from the Brain Geyser. He's still looking at 8 damage across the board, and there's a factory there, so we're looking at maybe 10 damage. The Sage of Latinam is, I believe, a 1/2 by himself. So a lot of damage on the side of the board there that Justin's staring down. Both players 2-0 coming into this match, so this is a battle of undefeated. Somebody's walking away 3-0 and in great shape to make the top 4 of this event. Justin's in the tank a little bit, thinking about what he should do. Looks like he's in his discard phase, and he discarded a City of Brass, Taiga, and looks like maybe one more card under the Taiga. So he discarded down to hand size. The City of Brass is tapped. So here comes 8 damage. He's going to go from 13 down to 5. And Yeti still at 14 there. Does not attack with the factory. Leaves the factory home. And access to plenty of mana. So now here is Justin untapping on his turn. He's on 5 life, and he's got 10, 11 damage staring at him across the board. So he's going to have to find some kind of an answer here. Earlier this game, he did use a Hurkyl's Recall to bounce all the artifacts. He's going to tap the library to draw a card. He's got plenty of mana. Can he find something to do? He's got a grip of 8 cards now, having just drawn from the library. He's going to cast a Regrowth. Regrowth targeting the Hurkyl's Recall. And the question now is if he wants to play it now, or if he's going to try to play it in the upkeep, or wait till the attack from Yeti. He's taking a look at that full grip of cards. I believe he should have 7 now in hand after playing out. Here is the Hurkyl's Recall right there, and should be all artifacts. So the copy artifact, the Golem, the Soul Ring, and the Mox Pearl all come back into Yeti's hand. That's a nice play to do at the end of your opponent's turn if you can. Obviously, if you can swing it, it works nice. It's a nice one to do there, because then they can have to discard. If you've got it as your opponent's passing the turn, you bounce all their stuff, and if you get them over 7, then you can make them discard. Maybe you can discard some of the threats back at you. So he played that on his turn. Now he's going to play out a Black Vice. That's a nice follow-up for that, because during Yeti's upkeep, he'll have a decent hand of cards. It looks like he has 6 cards in hand there. So he's going to take a couple damage from the Vice. Hurkyl's Recall, by the way, will also bounce an activated factory, something for you to think about if you are waiting for an attack. Now, he might have he may have put Joe on some kind of a counter or some kind of interaction with that. So if he does have an activated factory coming across, then he could bounce that. But Joe wouldn't have to attack with the factory to have lethal damage for Justin. So here's 2 factories. So it looks like he's passing, and in the upkeep, he's taking a few damage. He should be taking, I believe, 4 damage. Yep, Yeti down to 10. This is a tight one because even if he can cast out those big threats again, they're going to be summoning sick again. So the tempo play of Hercule's recall is really showing itself. He's showing well. So here is, again, the Pearl and the Soul Ring that we're familiar with already. And let's see what he chooses to do. He's got access to plenty of artifact mana. The Workshop is still online. He's got the Workshop for 3, 4, 5 mana, and then 6, 7 for the Soul Ring. So he does have enough to cast 1 Golem. He doesn't quite have enough, I believe, to cast a Golem and the copy artifact back down this turn, unless he plays a land. So here comes 6 mana. I believe this will be... Oh, there is a Juggernaut. So we're going away from the Golems, and we're coming down with a Juggernaut. So that'll be for 4 mana. And it looks like he's waiting for Justin to respond. He's going to use the other mana to tap the factory. So there we go. So 3 of the mana from the Workshop, and then another one for the Juggernaut, and then the other 2 went into the factory. It looks like he's attacking with the factory, so we're in the attack phase now of Yeti. So no mana burn there because he used the artifact mana from the Workshop to cast the Juggernaut, and then there was an extra mana there floating from the Soul Ring. So here's a Shatter. The Shatter targeting the factory, maybe? Yeah, Shatter targeting the factory, and then draw a card. So again, the Sage of Latinam getting that value out. Has to go for the removal spell on the factory, but the Sage is able to come out over the top. So Yeti gets to draw another card. 2 Vices on the board, so Yeti does want to play out. There is another mana source, but we're past when we had use for the extra mana from the Soul Ring. So no more on the Golem and copy. Could have considered copying the Juggernaut. Could have considered playing a copy artifact there because we did see that go back to his hand, but he does pass the turn. Justin in his turn draws again, plays another Volcanic Island. I'm not sure if his library is still online or not. At this point in the game, he really needs some kind of a sweeping effect that would help there. Sage of Latinam is tapped, so if he can remove that Juggernaut, he won't get the card value from the Juggernaut. Yeti, of course, having to tap the Sage back in his turn on the attack with the Mishra's Factory to get the value from that Shatter. But let's see what Justin has. He's on 4 life, and he's staring down 5 damage. He holds up the hand. He's got a couple Side Blasts and a Stormseeker and says, yeah, I don't think I can do it, and they're going to scoop him up for game 1. There's the Suchi, a Golem, the copy artifact from Yeti. So both players showing off their hands at the end of game 1. Nice game, players. That was exciting to watch for me and hopefully for all of you watching at home. Let's head on over to game number 2 after sideboard. Justin looking to bounce back here in game 2. Both players taking a look at their cards. Justin will be on the play after Yeti was able to overpower him with the big artifact robots. There's Yeti showing off the hand right there. We have another, looks like good gas in both players' hands. We've got another copy artifact. We've got another Workshop, it looks like, in Yeti's hand. And then Justin, I believe, has another library play to start. And there is indeed library play to start, tapping for 1 for the old Mana Vault. You have to love that play. Last time we saw Justin with the Mana Vault, he was able to follow it up with the Stormseeker. Don't have access to green just yet. On Yeti's side, we have the Mox Emerald and the Tundra and pass a turn. So let's see what Justin's follow-up will be. If he can get a colored mana source, there it is, City of Brass. So access to plenty of mana here with the Mana Vault, the City of Brass. He takes a damage from the city down to 19. Taps for 3 more colorless, and let's wheel. So we're going to dump the hands with, should be 1 colorless floating, I believe. So that's 4 mana he had. So he tapped for red, and Yeti taking a look to see if there's anything he can do before we discard our hands and draw 7 new ones. Not sure if he wants to think about disenchanting the Mana Vault. The Mana Vault is tapped right now, and it's going to be hard for Justin to untap the Mana Vault in his upkeep without some extra power. Both players looking at their hands. I see, yep, maybe an Earthquake there being discarded. There's an Ancestral Recall from Joe. And so the Yeti was thinking about maybe Ancestral Recalling, but you still have to discard all the cards that you did. So you'd have to get an instant for green to use. There's a look at the hand. I see a Triskelion in there. Plenty of burn in Justin's hand. So let's see if Justin's burn is able to outrace Yeti's robots. If he drops the Workshop, then we're going to be in much better shape for getting those big robots out if he can get another one. Tapping the Emerald for green. And there's a Soul Ring. On Yeti's side, there is the Workshop. So we do have robots mana, and there it is right there. 2 games in a row. The Obscenous Golem, 4/6. That huge body. Now, Hercule's Recall was cast twice in the last game, and so we'll see if he has something else to deal with these robots after sideboard. He's going to take a damage during his upkeep from the tapped Mana Vault, so that's 18. Justin is at 18 now, drops looks like a Volcanic Island, so he's got access to red-blue, of course, City of Brass. He drew off the library in the end step, so full grip of cards, plenty of action here. Let's just see what he wants to play out as a threat to slow down that Golem. That big body is definitely something to deal with. It was a force to be reckoned with in this tournament, as we can see so far. He's going to play down a Lightning Bolt, and he'll draw again, take another damage from the city, and a Chain Lightning. So a 2-for-1 on the Golem. We have a Lightning Bolt and the Chain Lightning. And he says pass the turn over to Yeti. So Yeti is untapping, takes a look, and here is another one. Yeti seems to always have the Golem answer when things start to get ugly or get into trouble. He seems to always have an answer with the Golem. So let's see what we're going to do now after a couple more. Justin takes a draw, looking again. What do I do with this one? I used 2 burn spells on the last Golem. Do I have 2 more burn spells to back it up, taking another damage in his upkeep from the Mana Vault that's tapped? And there is a draw from the city. So that Mana Vault that he used to power out the Wheel of Fortune so far has not been able to provide much more value. And Joe Yeti did draw into the Workshop play on the wheel. Here comes a Soul Ring anyway. That might help get that Mana Vault untapped if Justin ever sits back, but you don't want to be sitting back in a position like this where you've got 4 damage looking at you across the table, and he does pass the turn back over to Joe. Joe does have a live Golem, and he's going to come over. So from 16 down to 12 goes Justin with the 4 damage from the Golem. I saw a copy artifact in Yeti's hand there. That was the last draw, it looks like. We got to see. But Yeti is tapping more. He does tap enough for the Triskelion. So he's tapping the Soul Ring, the Emerald, and the Workshop. Here comes a Triskelion into play. And I see, yep, he's reaching for the dice. So that must mean that's entering the battlefield. And there it is. So we've got a 4/6 and a 4/4 with the 3 arms to go pow, pow, pow. So Justin now was wondering, what could I do here? We've used a lot of mana on those. Hercule's Recall would slow things down and would likely lead to him taking 3 damage before the Trike bounces back and comes back with 3 more counters. So even that answer is not looking as enticing. Here comes a copy artifact. And Justin takes a look to see if he has something. Maybe a blast. A red blast would stop that from happening. So it's a Psy Blast targeting the Triskelion in response. So here's what's going to happen. The copy artifact's on the stack. The Psy Blast is going to try to clear the Triskelion off the board. Yeti shoots Justin for 3 with the Triskelion. It's going to take the damage, and the copy artifact has to come in as something else. So Justin just wanted to make sure there wasn't a Triskelion for that copy artifact to enter the battlefield and see, because then he'd have 6 instant speed damage staring at him. As it is, he's got a 4/6 body. So things either way for Joe looked fine there. I think Joe would probably take either one of those. Likely preferred the Triskelion, but the Psy Blast did 2 damage to Justin, and then the Triskelion hit him for 3 in response to that. So kind of a big swing in damage there, and it went fast. So that's what happened in case you missed that last action there. Justin, in his turn, still did not untap the Mana Vault. So he's at 6 life, and Justin says pass turn. So at 6 life, Justin's going to sit back here. He's got 8 damage staring him down. and he doesn't have any blockers on board. Those are ground pounders. So here comes Joe swinging for 8, tapping 2, and there's a Hurkyl's Recall. So Hurkyl's Recall will get those attackers off the board if that's allowed to resolve. Joe taking a look at his hand to see if he can respond to this one. Maybe he has a blast in play, but I don't know if he has a red mana to my eye here. Yeah, the artifacts do bounce back. And Justin takes his artifacts back. And there's a Stormseeker. So the big damage on the Stormseeker after the Hurkyl's Recall. So he hits Joe's counting up his hand. So Stormseeker does 1 damage for each card in hand of the target player. So Joe is going to take a big hit after bouncing those Moxes, the Golem, the Copy Artifact, the Soul Ring, all those artifacts back to his hand, and he's doing that while we're still in the attack phase, I think, before Joe can get priority to put the Moxes back down, because he's got 2 Moxes, the Soul Ring. So I believe he did that maybe at the end of combat step, is how all of that shook out. So Yeti is tapping again, playing out some of the artifacts. There's the Suchi. So that's a Suchi costs 4. And here is Armageddon. Armageddon going to knock out all those lands, including the library. And Joe with the big mana advantage here with the 3 mana rocks. Although Justin did take a Mana Vault back into his hand after the Hurkyl's resolved. I think that was targeting Joe. So here's an island. So he does have a Mana Vault that he could use to get some quick mana if he has something to quickly deal with that Suchi. He does go in the upkeep of Joe to Ancestral Recall. So instead of doing it on his turn, he'll do it on the upkeep so he doesn't have to discard down to hand size. Yeti on his turn is going to play down a Tundra, building that mana advantage back up. Here comes 4 from the Suchi. Justin goes down to 1. Let's see what Joe has here. He has access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana that I see on the board. And he's going to say pass turn. So a few things could happen. Joe's going to have another attack coming up next turn. Joe also may still have the Triskelion on board. That could be an answer. That could be something. So Justin taking a look to see what he's got. What could he have against a board state like this at 1 life? He did hit Joe with a big Stormseeker before. So Joe's not at 20, but he's certainly not going to be within burn range at this point. Taps a blue for a Soul Ring. Plenty of mana now. There is a Regrowth. I believe that's a Regrowth. Yep, so he's going to have 1 green floating. He's got to or one colorless floating. He's got to spend that colorless, and there is a blue for the Hurkyl's Recall. So again, Regrowth for Hurkyl's Recall. He's going to bounce the Suchi. Joe's going to go to his turn. And so, yeah, the Suchi was bounced, and as were all those artifact mana from Joe. So it looks like they're correcting the life total. Joe is at 12 now. That would be after that big Stormseeker. So once again, Joe's going to play out the mana artifacts that have been bounced back to his hand a couple of times. No big Stormseeker follow-up there, it looks like, from Justin after this current Hurkyl's Recall. And looking at the mana again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana is on the board. Joe taps for 3, 4, and there is the Suchi. So Suchi back out. Hurkyl's Recall slowing down Joe, but not actually taking care of the problem. And Suchi's mana only comes in if it gets destroyed or sent to the graveyard from play. So the mana burn from Suchi is not online just yet. There's a Winter Factory for Justin. Justin right now just fighting for survival, fighting for another turn, for another draw. He's at 1 right now. He does have a blocker for the Suchi. There's a Workshop on Joe's side. Joe now has access to 6 mana, puts a Triskelion on the stack, And Justin says, good match. So Justin shows off the Psyblast in his hand and the rest of the hand. That was not going to help him with that. So the Triskelion had a resolved, of course, just can do instant speed up to 3 damage to any target. So Justin was, if he let that resolve, then enter the battlefield, that was going to be it for him. So Joe Yeti takes it in 2. Congratulations, Joe, going on to 3-0 here. Justin Iskra going on to 2-1 as we head on to round 4 here at YETICON. If you've been enjoying these videos, let me know. Leave me a comment here on these videos. I'll have a playlist with all of these videos listed in the description below. We have a little bit more action in the regular rounds here for YETICON. We have 5 regular rounds. I also have 1 semifinal match and the final match to bring to you in this series for YETICON 2.0 in 2023. But for now, we will see you as we go on to round 4.